Avery Cole steps into the dry line. Dry wind, pushing dust along the threshold. She chooses the booth with her back to Brick and her face to the long mirror. In that glass, she sketches doors. The kitchen pass. The restroom swing. The slow bouncer near the entrance. Jenna Park slides over water. Ice ticks. Neon flickers, then steadies. Cole is off duty near a joint training week. A Naval Special Warfare SWCC commander with no insignia showing. She tilts her phone to low power. Lock screen catching light. Not recording. Just measuring. A scuff of grit sneaks under the door. She nearly wipes it with her boot. Then leaves it there as a marker. The beer cooler corner shows a dead camera eye. Opportunists like corners. Her shoulders settle but not fully. The mirror becomes a quiet map and the room draws itself. Discipline, looks before hearts speak. Plaid shoulders tilt toward Avery Cole. Sergeant Ethan Red Malloy leans back. Corporal Brandon Voss elbows the table. And Lance Corporal Lance Cooper scans her reflection in the bar mirror that doubles as an aisle map and a choke point. One of them drinks only water and watches more than he laughs. She files that away. Jenna Park polishes a glass, then eases her phone up so the screen faces the room. The bouncer. Nate Broder. Rests a palm near his belt, where a flashlight and a can of spray hang. He floats a courteous request to step outside, pitched just loud enough for nearby tables. Cole answers with small refusals that land like rubber feet on a ladder. For a second, she almost apologizes. The room pretends to mind its own business. Off-duty Marines? Joint training week in town. The kind of night that invites shortcuts. Pressure builds when Broder calls it house rules, and the sober Marine recalibrates his angle. Politeness looks like a shortcut to control, until it meets a wall that breathes. Tonight, Broder pitches a courteous request to step outside, public enough to travel table to table with the word disturbance tucked inside. Sergeant Ethan Red Malloy and Corporal Brandon Voss drift wider. Testing angles toward the aisle choke, while Lance Corporal Lance Cooper slouches and watches for tells. Avery Cole stays seated, palms light on the table. The bar mirror giving her a sightline to doors. Kitchen pass. And the slow rotation by the entrance. She answers with brief, no replies that do not wobble. For a second, she almost softens it. Then lets the word stand. Jenna Park lifts her phone below chin level. Screen bright enough to catch Broder's approach. A second patron near the jukebox steadies a camera too. The bouncer's belt holds a flashlight and a can of spray. Off-duty Marines. Joint training week nearby. Then command lands. Don't raise your voice. She has not raised it once. Discomfort tightens into courtesy, as Broder calls it, house rules, and the sober Marine recalibrates. Some rooms follow the loudest mouth. Cameras do not have egos. A hand settles on Avery Cole's forearm like a claim, casual enough to pass as help. And the room obliges the fiction. Eyes turning away while the playlist keeps throwing out cheerful fragments. Jenna Park lifts her phone, framing the mirror so it catches entrances. The kitchen pass. And the beer cooler corner where a dead camera glints. Cole measures one slow breath and chooses precision over theater, moving just enough to end the contact. Redirect weight. And buy space. All without snarling the room or inviting anyone to chase her. The hand loses purchase, and Sergeant Ethan Red Malloy buckles into a metal chair that skates across tile, leaving him blinking at the sudden absence of leverage. Corporal Brandon Voss misreads the angle and hits the bar edge. Breath stuttering. Fingers splayed for balance that never arrives. His reflection split by bottles. Lance Corporal Lance Cooper hesitates between insult and retreat, caught mid-step by the fact nothing dramatic happened. yet the room belongs to someone else now. Nate Broder tries to reset the script with posture and volume, but his breath shortens as the floor takes him to a manageable stop. Face close to wood. The mirror keeps perfect score, reflecting who actually moved and who only talked. While the beer cooler blind spot sits like a vacant seat reserved for anyone who mistakes dim corners for protection. Music continues. No skip. No swell. Just a bright chorus against tightened silence. And in that lack of commentary, the power resets. A circuit breaker flicked by restraint rather than rage. Cole does not flash a unit or clearance. Does not declare anything except distance. Stepping away. Once contact is over. Hands open. Eyes clearing the path toward the door. Then the whole room. Then the night. Phones stay up in steady hands. Jenna near the taps and Sarah near the far stools. Each clip, a small anchor for later when stories get loud and facts need a place to stand. Someone coughs. Someone apologizes to nobody. And someone else discovers the sudden interest of the floor pattern. Tiny chips in glaze that were never worth noticing until the room decided to breathe differently. The hardest hit tonight is the empty space after the noise. The place where boundaries land exactly where they should. Outside the door, dust slips along the gravel lot like a quiet metronome. And inside 6 ordinary seconds, finish their work. Leaving balance returned, and bragging noticeably absent from every unsteady breath for a while longer. Red and blue spill across the brick as the patrol car noses over the gravel. Dust streams past the hood and gets in my throat. Deputy Miles Durant walks in like a metronome. Short questions, long looks. His body camera blinks a steady dot. The room tries to talk over itself. Sergeant Ethan Red Malloy wants speed. Corporal Brandon Voss stretches the tail. Lance Corporal Lance Cooper hangs back with a water bottle. Sober eyes, counting witnesses. Nate Broder repeats the word protocol as if saying it makes one. Jenna Park slides her phone onto the bar with the clip open. Sarah Kim lifts a second angle from the far stools. Durant keys his radio. Possible 242 and 415. Request liaison for off-duty Marines. Keep it routine. He does not ask who we are. He asks what we did. Everyone gets addressed as a civilian. Off-duty status noted. Alcohol noted. He watches the mirror and the blind spot in turn. EMT Riley Boone checks the wobbly ones. Tenderness here. A contusion there. No drama. I feel a cough climbing and swallow it. For a second I almost step in to help. Then stop. Boone has it. Jenna passes custody of the clips. Chain of custody written. Timestamps. Logged. A quiet nod sealing it. The room stops performing. Durant watches both videos. He sums it in plain words that land like chalk marks on a street. The bar moves from noise to order. The dust outside curls in the doorlight and loses interest. When the law walks in, data speaks louder than any bravado. Data does not drink. Red, Voss, and Cooper stop talking over one another as the playlist carries on and the paperwork begins to stack in measured, readable lines. A rural badge shines under the bar lights as Deputy Miles Durant asks for name and date of birth. Avery Cole answers, then offers written consent for a deputy to retrieve her ID from the motel if needed. No one's freedom shifts because of titles. Durant reviews the videos first. Body camera, steady, and only then speaks to each person as a civilian in a small county bar. Jenna Park and Sarah Kim hand over their phones long enough to copy files. Evidence receipts print. Chain of custody lines fill with time and initials. Off-duty status is noted. Alcohol is noted. EMT Riley Boone moves table to table. Marking tenderness here. A plain contusion there. Breath. Regular. Sergeant Ethan Red Malloy mutters that they did not know. Durant says that behavior outweighs who they think she is. Corporal Brandon Voss keeps glancing at the mirror. Lance Corporal Lance Cooper holds his water bottle like a passport that never came. Nate Broder breathes through his nose and repeats the word protocol. Smaller each time. Cole signs where the deputy taps. A calm nod sealing it. For a second, she almost explains more. Then stops. The room's volume drops to a workable hum. Gravel scrapes outside and loses interest. Truth does not salute rank. It salutes a clean clip and a tight statement. Some nights end with sirens. This one settles into paperwork and steady. Breathable quiet that lasts. Printer chatter starts before anyone breathes easier. Deputy Miles Durant holds his phone to one ear and listens to Chief Warrant Officer Luis Ortega on the liaison line. Then notes the essentials in his pad off-duty status for the 3 Marines. Alcohol observed. Civilian witnesses. Video preserved. He keeps his tone even while the bar tests its explanations. He slides a complaint form to Avery Cole. The options are clear. She taps willing to cooperate and declines immediate prosecution. The pen hesitates a second, then moves. A small click from the printer answers back. Nate Broder tries to claim protocol again. His voice thinner now. Durant replies that what he heard earlier sounded like following the loudest table, not policy. Corporal Brandon Voss attempts to reframe the whole thing as keeping the peace. Jenna Park cuts through by stating she heard the phrase, "Do not raise your voice," before any voice rose. The room absorbs that timing like a chalk line. EMT Riley Boone keeps it neutral. Tenderness noted. Contusion noted. Breathing regular. Vitals within range. No drama. Boone's clipboard makes a steady rhythm that turns the bar back into a workplace, with lights and forms and people who sign what they actually saw. Durant completes evidence receipts for the clips from Jenna and Sarah Kim. Timestamps and initials in their boxes. Chain of custody begins with clear handwriting and an ink smudge where his palm caught the margin. He schedules a call with the district attorney for later in the morning. Ortega confirms that the military side will examine conduct under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, up to possible non-judicial punishment. 2 tracks. Separate but aware of each other. Now move. Cole keeps her posture plain. For a second, she almost adds a longer statement. She lets the boxes speak. Justice rarely brings a soundtrack. It arrives as boxes to tick. And those boxes almost never lie. The printer exhales another page. Dust slides off a boot. Someone steadies a glass back onto a coaster. And the night exhales into careful order that feels earned rather than staged. For everyone still inside tonight. Around 3:40 a.m. Cole steps out of the dry line into a gravel lot where the wind drags dust along her boots. The night tastes like metal. She pulls her hood closer and chooses the long way around parked pickups. Habit more than fear. The bar lights fall behind her, and the quiet of Sagebrush Crossing settles into the spaces between power lines. In the motel room, she moves on muscle memory, folding the same shirts in the same order. Charger coiled. Wallet checked. ID sleeve zipped. A tiny tear on the pack strap waits for her eye. She had patched it earlier with a strip of tape. She presses the edge flat again and decides to leave it. A brief text from Chief Warrant Officer Luis Ortega arrives. "We will take it from here." She sends back, received, and sets the phone face down. No ceremony. An AM radio voice murmurs about shifting winds near midday and a high sky. For a second she almost leaves the radio on. Then she clicks it off and listens to the room breathe. She checks out before dawn. Motel key sliding across a scratched counter. The clerk yawns without looking up. The street holds a few ranch trucks and a single bus rumbling past. She walks to the small station. Gravel crunch steady. The rucksack unmarked and honest on her shoulder. On the early train, she chooses a window seat with a solid wall behind. The habit of a Naval Special Warfare SWCC commander, off-duty but never careless. 2 fresh recruits clatter aboard. Loud, with nerves, and sleep. One glances at her callous knuckles and plain pack. Mouths, logistics, then shrugs it off and sinks into a seat. The night distills into calm because she refuses to make a trophy of it. She lets the paper trail carry the weight and keeps only the lesson. Quiet winds do not need fireworks. They know the way home and arrive on their own time. The train edges through scrub, her reflection soft in the glass, while dawn lifts over sage and rusted fence wire. She breathes once and lets it go. The train hums like a quiet generator, and early scrub slips past the window in slow bands. Avery Cole settles into the seat with a wall at her back, rucksack between her boots. Skin chapped from a dry night in Sagebrush Crossing. The horn rolls once and the car rocks. She watches her hands, the small scars and callous gloss. And the memory opens the way a door opens to wind. It starts far from here, near a desert strip where a C-146, a wolfhound, crossed the sky after a long joint workup. The sound came late and light, not for show. Just enough to say that interoperability makes odd things elegant when it works. She remembers breathing through grit and counting distant strobes. The way crews treated each other like parts of one plan rather than competing patches. Another fragment slides in from a training day when a T-6 Texan II took fuel at a small field. Student laughter carried across the concrete, blunt and harmless. Cole was not there to fly. She stood by a fence with a clipboard and watched a crew turn checklists like pages of a private language. No one rushed the ritual. One item after another, eyes and voices cross-checking. Not dramatic. Not negotiable. For a second, she almost tuned it out. Then, she let herself be taught by repetition. Do what is required. Speak what is necessary. Trust the list more than pride. She thinks of a coastal evacuation last year, where names on a page outweighed shouting on the pier. Boats came in a measured rhythm. A man tried to cut the line with volume. Someone else stepped forward by reflex. Cole held the boundary with a look and a level palm that did not shake. The list moved. The names moved. The noise fell away because a system had the floor. The car sways and her reflection folds over the glass. She thinks about the bar, the mirror, the dead camera angle, the little flares of ego that like to seed themselves in any dark corner. She stayed quiet because quiet has hardware she trusts. Years of checklists tuned into instinct. Risk assessment, before bravado. A personal sequence that says observe, confirm, respond only when required. Then stop. Tonight, she acted just enough to end the contact and refuse the performance. Then she let evidence and procedure close the circuit. Where checklists are respected, ego never gets takeoff clearance. That is how people make it home on time. Morning settles over Sagebrush Crossing without headlines. Miles Durant scrolls through his inbox and opens Ortega's message. Statements logged. Commands notified. Liaison, standing by for follow-up. Attached headers mention preserved evidence and body camera references. He adds a calendar block for a meeting with the district attorney. Early afternoon, and sets reminders that will ping like taps on a desk. At the dry line, a technician climbs a ladder with a mount. The old blind corner above the beer cooler gets a fresh anchor and a focused lens. The drill coughs. Pose. Then bites again. The owner signs the work order and places it under a magnet. Broader receives a citation for misusing house rules and nods without arguing. He tries once, stops midway, and signs. Jenna Park answers a brief thank you call. Says she did what anyone should. then wipes down the bar between customers. Her phone buzzes twice more. She silences it and goes back to pouring coffee for a rancher who forgot his change. Durant updates the evidence log with file hash notes and the time the clips were imported. Ortega flags possible non-judicial punishment under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, while reminding everyone the civilian track remains separate. 2 rails. Same direction. Closure arrives as scheduled emails and a new screw in brick. If one night cannot change a person, it should at least repair a blind corner and its camera. Dawn skims the rails, and the car is quiet. Avery Cole keeps the window seat with a wall at her back. Rucksack at her feet. 2 recruits clatter aboard. Loud with nerves. One reads her calloused knuckles, shrugs, and guesses logistics. Sage and Wire slide by. What do uniforms mean to you? Protection or privilege? When stories get loud, do you side with proof or volume? She breathes, lets the questions travel without her. A boundary is a whisper. It only works when we decide to hear it.